And there you have it, Judge Thad Balkman making his decision in this landmark trial against opioid manufacturers, the first lawsuit in the nation to go to trial over the opioid epidemic. The judge there siding with the state of Oklahoma. Let's get right to some legal analysis here. We've got attorney Noble McIntyre in the studio. This is something that people across the country, especially in the legal community, are watching.
Well, they are. I mean, it's the first case in the nation out of thousands and thousands to go to trial. The Oklahoma plaintiff lawyers pushed really hard to be in that position, and so they're at the point of the spear, so to speak. This is just one of many cases to come. I will tell you that Johnson & Johnson's probably breathing a sigh of relief right now. They were not, I don't think the average person was expecting a verdict of $572 million, I think is what the judge said. I think people thought it was going to be a number starting with a B.
Well, the state was asking for $17 billion, so this isn't even close.
No, and if you look at the stock market right now, Wall Street, the market has closed, but after hours, it's up $7 a share already, Johnson & Johnson. So that's a 5% increase, and it's increasing as we speak. So Wall Street certainly likes the result as well.
But what does this mean for those other cases kind of in the woodwork making their way to the courts? We've also got one that's going to be pushed into federal court. Are they going to get what they're asking for?
Well, you know, Oklahoma may not get what they're asking for in that regard, in the sense that Johnson & Johnson will have many appealable issues, I'm sure, over a 7-week trial where they will file their appeal. They do that for a number of reasons. One, to try to get a verdict lower, to try to get a settlement reached with the parties. But the other thing is, the longer that you can delay this and make it more expensive for the plaintiffs and the states that are bringing these cases, the better it is for them. Plus, they get to keep their money longer. And so what Johnson & Johnson will do is they'll file an appeal. Don't be surprised if the plaintiffs file an appeal too, even though they've won. Because there's going to probably be some unhappy people with the amount of the verdict. And it's a little crazy to say that somebody would be unhappy with a $572 million verdict, because those certainly don't come along very often. But in this case, Oklahoma seemed to have a very strong upper hand. And so, you know, it's obviously a win. It's a great win for the plaintiffs, but I think it's probably going to be a number that's much, much less than what they thought it would be.
The judge talked about that amount being going towards settling this nuisance here in the state of Oklahoma. He fully admits we've got a crisis in the number of addictions and overdoses, neonatal issues.
Right.
So what does that mean for that judgment? Who's going to get paid?
Well, that's going to go into a program. He said that he still retains the rights over the case. And so what he's going to order is that to be put into a fund different than, you remember, he took some criticism, and there was some criticism over the early settlements for the two defendants that settled out early. And that money went to the state. And then you had the legislators.
That was Teva and Purdue Pharma.
That's exactly right. And there was some argument from the legislators with the governor on how do we do this money, who gets this money, does it go into the general fund? Then you had Medicare step in and say, now, wait a minute, that was a settlement for which we are entitled to some of our claims. A lot of folks don't know that when you settle a personal injury claim, if an insurance company such as Blue Cross or Blue Shield, a private insurance company, or a national one like Medicare has paid, they have what's called a right of subrogation. They have a right to be reimbursed their costs, and that they would have had part of that. So Medicare stepped up and said, well, we get some of that money too. And so what the judge is doing now is saying, I'm going to control where this money goes. It's going to go into a public nuisance abatement program to help stop this nuisance, to try to start getting some treatment for some folks, instead of just saying, legislature, here's a bunch of money, go do what you want with it.
I can't imagine that would go over very well. A lot of people would want to get their hands in that pot.
Oh, don't you know it? And, you know, out of that pot, you're going to have attorney fees and costs, although I think Mike Hunter, the state, did a good job with Reggie Whitten and his firm of lowering that down. It's not your typical attorney fee, but it's still going to be a lot of money. But yes, there's going to be a lot of people that want their hands in that pot to try to do what they think needs to be done. And everybody's not going to be on the same page on what they think needs to be done.
Certainly. All right, we want to get some reaction now to this ruling from